Hey guys, welcome back to Survival Vietnamese, where we talk about Vietnamese language, Vietnamese culture, and everything Vietnamese. So today I have a very special guest. This is Phuong. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. All right, so let's give a little background to how we met.
Yeah.
You also joined our first tour ever in Saigon when you saw me and Dao at the hotel.
Yeah, the cafe lobby. It's
Yeah.
very random. Very
Yeah.
random.
And we just like, I think Dao just like nonchalantly was just like, hey, we have a tour. You want to join? And you're just like, okay. And that was it. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think like, the fact that you're here with me now and like we hung out a lot after that, that's another example of like you being to me. I don't know how you feel about that, but
Yeah, yeah.
because that was so random. Like you were literally just walking by. It's like, oh, I recognize you guys. And then here we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think yeah, a lot of obviously I've been following you guys and going through a period where I wanted to reconnect, come back to Vietnam, reconnect with heritage and culture, and you guys were popping up with like relatable content, and I found it very inspiring. And yeah, it really motivated me to come to Vietnam, and it's a solo trip actually that I wanted to do myself. And yeah, and then randomly we just crossed paths.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was just like, wow, cool, let's go on a tour. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, life is mysterious like that.
Yeah, yeah. So in a way, I don't know, it was like manifesting it in a way, and then it just happened.
Yeah, but I think like also I'm in this time right now where I'm just so fascinated by, everyone's story, us in the Vietnamese diaspora. I'm just not only amazed by the similarities, but also like, a little bit of the differences because I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like we're all, this is a weird example, but like pieces of chocolate, but like different flavors, like
Yeah.
we've all kind of spread out from Vietnam, or our families at least, because of similar events and circumstances. And we all found ourselves in very different places and grew up in very unique environments. And yet we also went through a lot of the same things. And now we're all kind of coming together, from Australia, from Germany, from different parts of the US, from the UK, and like having all these kind of similar experiences and like very unifying themes for a lot of us, right? Like you coming from the UK, which I'm really curious about, by the way. So,
Yeah.
what was that like growing up as a Vietnamese British or British Vietnamese? Like,
British Vietnamese.
yeah, in Manchester, what was it like for you?
I think I remember high school for us. I remember in my year, there was probably just me and one other Vietnamese guy.
Oh, okay.
Literally.
Okay, so really small community.
Really, really small. Well, like that was in my year, and then I think later on there like it grew. There were like large groups. But yeah, in our generation there wasn't many in my school. So I think growing up for me, I felt a bit disconnected because I didn't feel comfortable being Vietnamese or like confident to like speak Vietnamese. Yeah, so I felt a bit like I think I suppressed a lot of it. Like there's home and how we are at home, and then when we're in school or we're outside, like it's like we need to think differently, or approach things differently.
Did anyone give you a hard time being Vietnamese?
No, but I think it's because you're different anyway. So sometimes you get Asian, like, a bit of racial, like, slurs here and there. And I think for me then as well, there wasn't a differentiation between Chinese and Vietnamese. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the same experience for me. Yeah, like everyone defaulted to Chinese for me. This is what I heard. Let me confirm with you. In the US, the like big term is Asian, but I heard in the UK that usually refers to South Asians.
No, yeah, Asian, South Asian.
Okay.
I think like this is something that like kind of like bothered me when I was younger as well. When we used to have like like a ballot paper or like like multiple like choice of you picking your ethnicity, right? So it'll come under Asian, and then at one point we had Oriental.
Oh, you remembered that.
Yeah,
Oh,
because obviously you're like, oh, what do I tick? And then I'm like, am I under Asian or? Oh, but then there was some times where I'm like, I'm not Asian or other Asian,
uh-huh.
and then sometimes it was just other.
Oh,
So
uh-huh.
sometimes like it
Yeah.
makes you feel like what category do I fit in?
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah, and it makes you feel like not normal because you're the
Yeah.
other, you're like
You're an other.
you're a subcategory or like yeah, all these different other categories that are outside of the mainstream. Yeah, so okay, that's really similar. That's what I was talking about. How like we did have kind of similar experiences, even though we grew up differently. For me, I think like I think even now, part of me always kind of wants to eat American food sometimes, or like, I get comfortable with speaking English. Like living in Vietnam right now for me and being surrounded by Vietnamese people, I could speak Vietnamese, all day, but I kind of start to seek out English, like seek out friends who I can speak English with, and kind of just share experiences as a, I guess, Vietnamese American, things that only like other Vietnamese Americans would get. It's almost like the language version of a comfort food, because it's just like, oh, I've been around too much Vietnamese, like I need to be around, people that get me, kind of, I don't know, what is that? Do you have that as like a person that grew up in the UK? Are there parts of like UK culture that are like comforts for you?
If we go back to food, right? Okay, so if you're born in the UK, you know what Greggs is. Like, if I said to you, do you want a Greggs?
Okay, yeah, I don't know what that is.
Right. A Greggs is like a very British thing. It's like a pasty.
A what?
Pasty.
A pasta?
Pasty.
What's a pasty?
Pasty is like a baked I don't know what you would call it in America.
A pastry?
Kind of. Yeah. So
Okay.
it started out as like, like kind of a rectangle pastry. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but we call it a pasty.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Okay.
And then there's different fillings in it. So it's baked, so you can have like chicken, like a creamy
Yeah.
chicken filling, or you can have like a steak bake. So you
Okay.
have like steak and that kind of sauce. So it's just a thing in the UK where it's just a quick eat. So you can go and it's like it used to be like £1 or something like that, or even cheaper than £1. It's like £1
Yeah.
something now. But
Yeah.
it's like a high street food.
Yeah.
Like you can just go and get it and it's ready, and then you have it for lunch, and there's meal deals and stuff. So that's a massive UK thing, and I think like that's something that I actually like would say like it's a comfort thing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm just wondering if what I'm imagining in my head is what you're talking about.
I don't know if that's like you're interpreting it like I'm interpreting it differently.
Right. Curious though. I'm curious. Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like things like that. Yeah. It's called a pasty.
Pasty.
It's called a pasty.
Yeah.
But you said another name. It was.
Oh, the actual name of the different so steak bake. So that's
okay.
like the name of that, or you can have like a chicken bake.
Gotcha.
Because
Gotcha.
it's got a chicken.
Oh yeah, we got a chicken bake. Costco chicken
And
bake.
sausage rolls. Like they do good sausage rolls as well.
I think I can only name like 2 UK dishes:
Okay.
bangers and mash,
Okay, yeah, bangers and mash.
fish and chips.
Yeah, no, to be honest, yeah. And then you got the full English breakfast.
Full English breakfast. Yeah. I mean, it's good. Okay, you're in Vietnam now, obviously, because we're filming this right now. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, how long has it been since you've been back here?
It's probably about 12 years.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, since I've come back to Vietnam.
Wow. Okay.
Very long time.
That's massive change. Yeah. Do you have clear memories of that trip 12 years ago?
Yeah. So yeah, the last time I came was it was with my sister actually, and then before that it was every time we came back it was just with family.
Yeah.
And I think it's different when you travel with family. We come here and then like we still have family here, so they take us wherever. So it's already been planned for you.
Right.
So coming back, and this time it's a solo trip for me. It's a different experience because I'm looking up things that I want to go see. Like food and history, different locations where I want to go. Yeah, and then plan my own itinerary.
Right. So I don't know if you can answer this, but what do you think is motivating this different curiosity for you on this trip?
I think at some point for me, everyone's on their own journey, and I felt I almost lost like a part of my identity, and I was kind of seeking, parts of it where I wanted to figure out for myself, like, why do I feel so lost? And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I haven't been back to Vietnam for a long time. And maybe it's something that like I need to do just so that I can feel more reconnected.
And do you feel that you achieved that on this trip?
Definitely. I think there's so much like, especially with, well, one thing, experiencing things with people and the people that I've met along the way by chance, like for example, us, and just listening to other people's stories and their perspectives on things as well.
Yeah.
And there's different people from all over the world, and they come back here. They đi về Việt Nam, like people always say that, right? So it's like almost you come home in a way. I remember the day that I landed, I was on the plane, and it was just a really strange feeling because it's coming back to a place that I haven't been for a while.
Yeah.
So I think I just didn't have any expectations. I just thought, okay, I'll just come and then embrace what's going to come, because I know that it's been such a long time, so a lot of things have changed. But then at the same time, even though I was like anxious, I felt more curious. I also felt like I'm coming home in a way too.
That's
Even
fascinating.
yeah, it's like it's an unfamiliarity, but then it's also familiar at the same time.
That's exactly the feeling I try to describe to people. That's really special how you pointed that out. The fact that it is a returning. People say đi về Việt Nam, yeah. And I don't. Were you born in the UK?
Yeah, I was born in the UK.
Same as like with me. I was born in Los Angeles. Yeah, we're not from here. Some people take that as like, I guess like a almost like a technicality. It's just like, oh well, you're technically British, or I'm
Yes,
technically
yeah.
American. You only get to be gốc Việt. You're not really Vietnamese, you know? But I would say the majority of people kind of treat us as like people who are still returning home. And for me, and it sounds like this is a similar experience for you, it is a returning somehow. Even though we're not born here, it's still a returning. Just like how living where we're actually born, for you, the UK, and for me in the US, still feels unfamiliar. I was born there. I grew up there, and still there's a feeling of unfamiliarity, of a feeling of like being a foreigner, a stranger. Still, like I don't feel completely at home in the US. And then there was a part of me that felt fulfilled when I first came here. Yeah. And it's like, wow, what is this feeling? And it's what you're talking about. It's that like familiar but unfamiliar, and I'm like, what is this? I don't know what it is, but not only does it feel good, but it creates so much more curiosity for me. It's like, I want to know more, and like it sounds like that's where you're at this point, that you came back on this trip and you're seeking more. So I'm curious, like, have you discovered anything on this recent trip? Like, what have you found or experienced?
I mean, part of the solo trip for me was I think I wanted to challenge myself to be able to speak more Vietnamese or be more confident in speaking Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Because I guess the first few days when I landed, I felt very like ngại, like to speak Vietnamese, because you kind of just like, okay, like will people understand me, or like if I pronounce things like incorrectly, like will I be laughed at, or will people judge me? But for me, I think I just really wanted to improve on like conversational speaking, and the little conversations that I've had with like ladies on the street like selling fruit, or like just some uncles who like gave me their poncho because it was raining and I didn't have one. And it triggered like a conversation, and then it's like they're more curious about me too. And then when we kind of go past that barrier, like the uncomfortableness, we realize like, you know what, we're the same. So I'm curious about you and you're curious about me. And then the conversation starts, and then I feel like, wow, I'm trying to communicate with them, and then it makes me think more like how I'm going to like have a conversation, what type of words that I can use, because I don't have these type of conversations at home. Yeah, there's not like that many people around to be able to express things in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you feel in those small conversations that you've had? I mean, you started off feeling kind of uncomfortable, and then like, once you did have those conversations, what was the feeling?
I think I felt everyone's really friendly.
Hmm.
I think I felt afraid at first, but everyone here, yeah, really friendly, really humble and welcoming, and some sort of like connection where it feels like I'm talking to another member of the family,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Just because like they'll just call me M or like Gong,
Yeah.
right? And then those words, like the meaning that comes with it or the feeling that
Yeah.
comes with it, like behind it, it makes you feel at home,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I completely agree.
Even if you were born from another country, but they're like, oh, your parents are Vietnamese or you're Vietnamese.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're British or like American or whatever.
Yeah, we have this like these family terms, right? That we use for even strangers like auntie, nephew, daughter, like gong is child.
Yeah,
It's a very intimate term. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I have to point out that like we also have terms that are not very intimate. So when you're not in the family, you can be like gong da if you're a girl, hang da or na, right? Na is like it. Like I don't even know how to translate na, right? So if you're not in the community in the group, you're a na, right? Or you're just like below everybody, like you're an animal or a child or like, but the opposite of that is so welcoming, so warm. It's like your gong, your jiao.
like
Yeah.
like at first glance already,
Yeah.
like the way that like someone greets you, you
Yeah.
already feel accepted.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think
Right.
that I found that I like that about Vietnam, like knowing that, even when you step into a shop, or if you were going to like speak to someone to ask for directions or something, they already greet you
Yeah.
automatically as
Yeah.
Gong Ji.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to, I guess, like generalize all Vietnamese people as super warm and everything, but I would say, in my experience, for the most part, it has been very positive. Where even now, I still feel a little bit shy or uncomfortable, or like I wonder how people are going to treat me if like I mispronounce something, or they just call me out right away as like a person born overseas, Vic or like Mỹ gốc Vic or whatever. And then when they call me out on that, I'm just like, oh my god, like I'm not one of you.
Yeah.
Is that okay? You know what I mean? But I would say like for the most part, it's never been an issue. People are very welcoming. I've had like aunties, and I call them aunties. They're not related to me. They're just aunties who like give me a long speech, like welcome home. Like Grab drivers who have like given me these like very warm welcomes and tell me that they appreciate like people like us coming back and seeking this connection, and like I think I'm always kind of latching on to those. And even when the, not so friendly people come along or like even scams or things like that, I'm just like, whatever, they're people.
Yeah, yeah.
There's gonna be those people too, but in general, it's been so amazing, and it makes me really cherish this place. At the same time, I still want some American food sometimes. Like we do kind of have to navigate that bicultural kind of thing too, right? But yeah, it is very comforting.
I mean, I think one thing, I mean, before we were talking about what ketchup, right? It's like the
Right.
most, like it's really basic thing, but ketchup, right? So Heinz, right?
Yeah.
Is Heinz ketchup, and you don't get that here.
Right. Right.
So
So let's dive into that. Not the ketchup, but yeah, I mean, we could dive into the ketchup too. But but like, what has that been for you? Like, what are other examples, I guess, of like things where you feel, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna get this. Like, I can talk to aunties here. I can connect to people. I could, share, common Vietnamese traditions and things like that. But do you ever feel like there's some things that you're just like, man, what is this? Like, I can't really understand what this is. Is there anything like that for you?
um,
I can give you an example for me.
yeah.
For me, it's a lot of times it's humor. So I'm fluent, But when Vietnamese people tell jokes that are like intended for other Vietnamese people, and like I just haven't been around, like I haven't lived here, like I didn't grow up with these like, you know, things that every Vietnamese person understands, and I'm just like just trying my best to laugh, and they're explaining it to me, and I'm just like, I get it, but I don't, and like that's just one thing that I'm like, you know what? I could spend another 30 years here, I might still not get it. Like there's still some things where like I'm always gonna have a little bit of like, yeah, I'm an outsider in terms of this.
Yeah, I think like I find that when they joke or there's certain comments that people make, it sounds much more savage here.
Okay.
Right?
Like which one? I think I know what you're talking about.
So when they like, like they'll just say it directly, like there's no filter,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So if they see someone and obviously like they think that person's like fat or overweight, right?
Yeah.
Like mập như con heo, right? There's always something to follow. Like
Yeah.
you're fat, but you're not just fat. You're like fat as a pig, right?
But it's not that malicious.
It's
just
not,
like,
but it's just the way that like they're expressing it.
Yeah.
But when you translate it, it sounds really heavy.
yeah.
Right? Because it's
yeah.
not something that we would say in Western culture. Right?
No, I completely understand. Yeah. I have like a game that I do with myself where like when I hear a Vietnamese conversation that sounds like that, I'm like translating it in my head into English, and I'm like, man, this sounds terrible. Like, how is that person not crying?
I think it builds character.
No, for sure.
It definitely has.
No, I love it. I love it. I just translated in English. I'm like, man, this is brutal. But in Vietnamese, since like we are bilingual and we understand it, in the context of Vietnamese, it's playful, it's fun, it's goofy, no one's taking it seriously.
Yeah, it's a different type of sarcasm.
Yeah, and that goes back to, I guess like why seeking the language is so important, because it's not just about understanding the meaning of the words, like now you're able to translate Vietnamese to English, English to Vietnamese. There's a lot of things that you can't translate by just translating the word. Like there's a context, there's the culture, there's the pacing.
It's how you use it, and certain words you pair with different words, it gives different meaning as well.
Yeah, mập như con heo is like it's how you like hit somebody with it that like really like matters. Yeah.
It's also the tone as well, because you can, like sometimes someone would say it and they mean it.
Oh yeah, that's true. No. Let's make that very clear. Like it can be very brutal.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the way you say things, the different tones, definitely.
So for me, I got a lot of experience and training, I guess, with that, because my mom is the master. She's the master of roasting people with Vietnamese in a way where like you end up liking her more. You like go back and like, play back what she said to you, and you're like, what the heck? Right facial expression to let you know, like, hey, I'm just kidding. Right? And what's your journey been like learning Vietnamese? Like, where was it before, and what is it now?
I actually like learned a lot of Vietnamese, I think, just at home with my mom. Like basic Vietnamese, we have like conversations. But at a young age, for me, I actually learned my Vietnamese, like my reading and like speaking is actually through karaoke.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess it's not like your normal route, like you go into classes or.
I hear a lot of people learning this way, actually.
I guess it's because you can physically read it, right? They're not symbols, they are letters. And I used to sing with my dad a lot. Like he used to just, like, you blast the karaoke at home, right? You grew up like in any Vietnamese household, it's always karaoke. But I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So for me, like I used to sit there with my dad, and we used to sing till like hours of the night. And I just wanted to get better, and then because I just felt a connection with, I guess, like the melody, the music, and then I wanted to be able to read and understand what the song was talking about.
Yeah.
So that motivated me to actually learn how to read and then like singing came a part of it after.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe it just came naturally to me, but that was something. That's how I connected with the culture, like when I was young, and like I used to always like collect Paris by Night, like like when they used to be on laser discs. If you remember.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
From those
Okay.
days.
So yeah, us millennials definitely know.
Laser discs, yeah. So I remember we used to go to Paris and stuff, and I used to always want to go to the shop that sold the next Paris by Night edition, and then collect those. And then like I used to just play them at home. I think everyone grew up with knowing what Paris by Night is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always curious about people who learn Vietnamese through karaoke, because to this day, I cannot sing a single song in Vietnamese. But when you learned Vietnamese through karaoke, you feel like it definitely helped you with the reading and the speaking as well?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I guess because I enjoyed the singing part, and like it's the pronunciation of words as well. So then that helped me learn, like all the symbols,
Right.
and then how to pronounce it, because you have to pronounce it in a certain way.
Yeah.
And then after that, there came the meaning, because I would ask my mom and dad. I'll be like, oh, what does this mean? Because I've never heard of this before. Because it's not like a word that they will use in like everyday, like basic conversation.
Yeah.
So then I'll be like, oh, cái chữ này là cái gì mà?
Yeah.
Right? So that's how I just slowly developed like more understanding of what it is.
Yeah.
And I think with Vietnamese like songs, it's very poetic, right? A lot of like metaphors. So yeah. So
okay.
I quite liked it. They're like then they become like little poems,
Right.
and then that triggered me to to kind of like connect emotionally as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that's what music is I guess meant to do. So what about like now? Do you feel like you are still trying to learn Vietnamese?
I think like I can say my Vietnamese is I think I'm fluent in terms of conversational level, but I want to improve and get better.
Yeah.
Because there's certain like I think I've come to the point in my life where I want to have conversations with my parents, and like a different level of conversation, not just like like at home, how are you and everything. It's more of like, how are you really?
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Like you can say how are you like day to day or like every other week when you go to visit, right? But I want to be like, how are you really? Because I want to understand my parents more. I want our relationship to be better. And there's certain words that I would have never learned or like used to express myself.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I would actually look up these words now or research these words now, just so that I can try and express myself, because I want them to understand me. So for me to be able to have that, I want to approach it and understand them first.
Yeah.
And then we can meet in the middle.
Yeah.
But I feel like I need to do my part in terms of trying to communicate.
Have you felt any kind of progress at all in that front?
Yeah. I think recently we've been having a lot of deeper and meaningful conversations. Like some are like difficult conversations where you try and get past a lot of like they have like stereotypes or like just opinions on certain things.
Yeah.
Just because you're at this age, so there's certain things that you need to tick off in your life.
Yeah.
And I would have to sit down and speak to my mom and just say, like I'm comfortable solo traveling. And that's something I think like in that generation they don't fully understand.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's not really an opportunity that they ever had.
Right.
So that's why they're not familiar with it. So they're afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I had to get to a point where I didn't want her to be afraid to ask me, like, why do you want to solo travel?
And you can explain yourself and reassure them.
Because at the end of the day, our parents worry about us. Like
Exactly.
what they say, how they express themselves is because out of concern, and it's from a good place.
Yeah.
It's out of care.
Yeah.
But sometimes they don't know like the right way to kind of approach it themselves.
Yeah.
So for us, it's a different world now. So for us to meet them in the middle, trying to approach it in a different way.
You're using all the words that I have kind of come to recently, like meeting in the middle is also something that I just recently experienced with my mom and my dad too. But with my dad, I don't know, maybe it's a guy thing. It's like we can't really express as much, but with my mom, we're very open. And, recently, there has been that where for a long time, my mom was very confused about me and my sister's life choices and kind of just scolded us or nagged us about it, and we felt very uncomfortable to share any more things about our lives with her. And then now she's kind of come around and she's like understanding now of like how our experiences are hard too. They're just different. They're hard in a different way. And then we also are understanding of her and knowing that like she came from very, very tough times, like unfathomable what they went through during their generation and when they were younger. And then also coming to the understanding that it's all out of love and just worry. They just care about us.
Yeah, yeah.
And they have their paradigms that they operate in, and once we understand that, then we can be like, okay, you're just concerned about me.
Yeah.
The way you're expressing it is, uncomfortable for me and it's not productive, but I see where you're coming from
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and I appreciate that. But let's like talk about this.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you where I'm coming from because I know where you're coming from now. And in order to do that, we need the language, a lot of it, right? Because these are adult conversations. I think that's how I think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
These
no,
are
that's true.
it's learning
That's
to
true.
have adult conversations with your parents in Vietnamese now. Because we
Yeah.
were relegated to the kids, right? We're a kids table.
Yeah,
All the
yeah,
adults are
that's
having their
true.
adult stuff, and then we're a kids table until you can actually have real meaningful conversation with them. You're not at the adult table, right? You're still at the kids table.
Yeah.
Because then they're just gonna come to you and be like, con đói bụng không? Hôm nay con làm cái gì?
Yeah,
Trời ơi, thôi
yeah.
con đừng có mập cái đó không có đẹp. Trời ơi, con có bạn trai chưa? But it's all the same questions, right? And it's just like all these yes no questions.
Yeah,
We can't
yeah.
get deep.
Yeah.
We can't get deep, like you need the language for that. Because they don't have it unless they have it in English, then you can't have it. And I think that's kind of the difference too, I guess, for some other folks in the diaspora. They have parents who can speak really good English.
Yeah.
And then, the kids don't speak Vietnamese, but at least they have that English to express themselves. But a lot of Vietnamese families, the kids and the parents are good in languages that the others are not good in. So they can't really make that bridge,
Yeah.
right?
I think I realized because I became frustrated because there was a point where I was like, my mom doesn't understand me.
Right.
Like my parents don't understand me, and then you get frustrated, and then like there seems to be like a wall, right? Because your mom's just like, oh my gosh, she's not listening to me, or like, she's not taking my advice or anything. And then along the way, it becomes like a miscommunication or like a misinterpretation of things because there's things that she wants to say but she doesn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
Right. And then for us, like we like the way that we process things is
Yeah.
like the Western culture way of like processing things.
Right.
So I just felt so frustrated, and I got to the point where I was just like, I know I want this. I want to be able to speak to my mom. I want her to like fully understand me. And
Yeah.
even though it won't be like 100%, at least I know like my Vietnamese is, probably like 40-50%. And that's good enough. But I can work on it and it can get better.
Yeah.
And I know that I really want that. So
Yeah.
for me, I think I'm just taking the steps towards that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that without a doubt, it's not just language. It's definitely where the two of you have gotten to at this point, emotionally understanding each other. And then, we are growing up now and seeing our parents differently, experiencing things ourselves that are helping us kind of sympathize and have compassion for our parents. And our parents growing old. I think that definitely, when I think about my parents, the age that they're at now is making them reflect more and like, kind of not grasp onto things the way they used to. Like they're getting just older and weaker, and their mortality is becoming like a thing for them. It's just like I'm not going to be around for much longer.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like the stages of our lives as well, which is so incredible that a lot of us are going through that at the same time. I talk about that a lot with folks, and it just hit me recently that a lot of the diaspora folks have pretty clear like generational experiences. And what I mean by that is the generations that left Vietnam after the war all kind of left in very clear periods. And the kids who were born, you have very like clear generations as well. Like, so for us, we grew up maybe when the Vietnamese communities were quite small where we grew up, and a lot of us are like older children, and the ones that are younger now, it's like it's completely different what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
I think there's so much more younger people that they can talk to in English and blah blah blah, things like that. And then a lot of the parents who left, like they're all kind of like around the same age, where the war was like, now about 50 years ago, and they had this collective experience that was happening at around the same time. So all this healing that's happening right now seems to be happening almost like at once
Yeah.
for the Vietnamese community, like across the world. Like every millennial Vietnamese diaspora person, and folks here too, are like having these conversations with their moms and dads now and having these realizations. And the parents now who are like in their 60s, 70s, 80s right now are like having to sit down with their kids who are asking them these questions. It's like, mom and dad, like, we need to get to the bottom of this and like really heal. Like I see you now and I think you see me now. So let's talk, like it's so incredible how that's all happening at once.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like it's yeah, I'd say this trip's been like a healing trip for me too. Like I think like having even just like the basic conversations, and even with like some of the young children, it's almost like healing like inner child inside. And yeah, like our parents are getting old, like you said, and they won't they'll see through like a different pair of eyes like later on too, and you don't want to well, for me anyway, I don't want to regret not being able to say the things that I wanted to say to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just like figuring out and finding like my way how to do it.
And at the end of the day, like, I mean, that's your call. It should be your way, right? It's like it's unique for every family. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wish you the best in that journey. Thank you so much for sharing, Phuong. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Me.
Yeah, this is like some deep talk right here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really appreciate you being here and sharing that. And I hope we get to talk more about it. Yeah. Okay, so Phuong, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you being on the show and telling us about your experience.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And you guys who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow us for more interesting conversations about the Vietnamese experience.